Earth sign rising in Scorpio. He's got a Sun in Cancer, Mars in Cancer, Uranus in Cancer. Look how much water's in this chart. What does water mean? Emotional, sensitive, psychic. Okay, it can be all those things. And this chart is just amazing in that respect. His moon is at 8 degrees Pisces, and it's 150 degrees aspect. Actually, it's wide orbit to that sun up there. And I'll show you. I'm going to show it to you this way. I'll show it to you this way. Okay. This here is his, this is, make sure what I got here, what I did. I did these right after somebody called me and asked me to do this chart, and I did. And what we have is, okay, let me find which one came up first. Okay, this is his progressed moon. His progressed chart is, progressed moon's at 25 Gemini, right up here, see it? Look where his Saturn is. Virgo. It's exact square, within 2 degrees of exactness. What is Saturn? Depression? It represents all those things. It's self-hatred, self-loathing, all that. I am not. Peter was, in the scripture, was Satan. Christ said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." Peter symbolized Satan. And what happens when you have afflictions from Saturn, you tend to not only be depressed, but you see the dark side of everything. Okay? Now, he had a lot of problems with drugs. First of all, he has Neptune in his 12th house, which rules drugs. It's Pisces, the 12th house is drugs. He's got his moon in Pisces, which rules drugs. All these indicators of emotional dependence on something like, on drugs is very strong in this chart. He has this, wait, let me do it this way. This 25 Gemini, watch this. Wait, this is the transit Saturn. Let's look at this real quick, and then I'm going to walk you through it. Okay? Saturn's at 17 degrees Scorpio in this chart. Okay? Look what it's squaring exactly. Pluto and Mercury. And Pluto's rules what? Death. It's exact, only 2 degrees, 1 degree apart from being exact. Okay? Now, the fact that this is occurring with the other aspect we just talked about, which was the moon affliction, and then you add, let's go through it this way. First, you're going to find the new moon preceding the event. The new moon preceding the death was at 4 degrees Leo. It's just 6 degrees from being conjunct his sun and quincunx his moon at 8 degrees Pisces. This quincunx 150 degree aspect is the 8th house configuration of death as well as okay. One thing, remember I told you the quincunx is a 150 degree aspect? Do you recall this? And I told you there's 2 meanings to that aspect. Okay. Did this not come off, honey? No, I'll take it off. Huh? I'll take it off. No, it's okay. Let me show. So the 150 degrees is one side of an opposition. 30 degrees of opposition. This is the 6th house aspect. If this is the ascendant, let's say right here, let's assume this is your ascendant right here. Okay, okay. Okay, if I can reach this. Oh, okay. Okay, I need you to turn the light on for me. Yeah, I'm asking. I'm falling over for it. Okay. It's not plugged in, probably. Okay. There's 2 meanings to a yod. Okay, it's called a quincunx or an inconjunct aspect. It's not an opposition, which is 180, which is very stressful, but it's 150. And it can go either to the 8th house from the ascendant or go to the 6th house, which is the house of sickness. 6 is sickness, and 8th is death. In his case, not going to come off. Huh? Okay, whatever. Not dry erasing, but permanent markers. I hope not. Yes, you did. I don't think so. I did, huh? Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's good enough. That's good enough. That's good enough. Okay, so anyway, the aspect that he's got with his quincunx is the death aspect. Now, let me just show you how this is. New moon preceding the death was at 4 degrees Leo. It's just shy of being conjunct his sun, which is quincunx his moon. Anytime you see a death, you usually see the sun and moon involved. The reason is because that's the life. Sun is your life force. The moon is your function of your body. Your soul is your what? Your moon. Your spirit is your sun. If you have a conflict in your chart between the sun and moon, that means there's a war between what? Your conscious and subconscious mind. Or let's put it this way, the sun is the will. The moon is the emotions. If you have a conflict between both of those, you have what? You have a conflict between your will and your needs, your emotional needs, which might be food, for example, because what is the moon? It's mother, it's mother's breastfeeding. It's everything to do with feeding yourself. Comforts, creature comforts, habits. So if your habits and your creature comforts are in conflict with your will, this is somebody usually fighting overweight. They're fighting the battle of weight. Why? Because they can't stay away from the creature comforts. Their habits are so ingrained on the unconscious level, the will has no power over them. You see what I'm saying? So in this case, his moon and his sun are at war with one another. They're quincunx to each other. Okay? For the be the loss of life, we normally see the sun, the life spirit, and the moon function, soul afflicted. So here again, we see the accuracy of the technique. It's never failed in the matters of life and death, as I've been doing this chart. Now look at this: the new moon preceding his suicide. New moon. We just looked at the what? We looked at the progressed moon. We're looking at the new moon preceding the suicide was at 4 degrees Leo. It's conjunct his sun by 6 degrees and setting off the sun square Neptune in his natal chart. Plus the quincunx aspect forming the 8th house meaning of death aspect to the moon in Pisces. Now a lot of this is going over your head right now. It's okay, because I'm going to get it to you real clear as we go along. Drugs likely were a precipitator of this deadly action. Now look at what this guy said, his closest friend. He said Parkinson drugs are to blame for Robin's death. He claims a close friend, Rob Schneider. One of the side effects is suicide, and Robin was on a cocktail of drugs at the time of his suicide. You see? So drugs were involved in this, and you can see why when you look at the chart. First we'll go there. Find the progressed moon. This progressed moon is at 25 Gemini, squaring its Saturn, which we just talked about, which is the Grim Reaper, depression, feelings of non-worth. It's within 2 degrees. Every factor in this chart adds up that way. Transiting Saturn, 17 Scorpio, exactly square to Pluto in his 10th house at 18 degrees Leo. And get this, the 10th house rules what? Fame, right, reputation, worldwide recognition. 10th house, it's all to do with that. Look what that death did to the world. It shocked everybody. And Pluto's in his what house? 10th. He's born with it there. Okay?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
One of the things when I saw the email about this that struck me was the whole Scorpio aspect to it, which I had thought had something to do with the essence of suicide. He didn't die from a car accident. He didn't die from,
Yeah.
you know, an illness or somebody killed him. He died from a suicide.
Okay.
And Scorpio, to me, I think that has something to do
It is Scorpio and Pluto. Remember I said 3 ways to see something.
Yeah.
Scorpio, 8th house, and what? Pluto. We're going to go back to the chart in a minute here. Okay. Let's go back to the chart. Okay. To the natal chart, right here. Okay. This Pluto was getting afflicted totally, exactly square. We had the moon being afflicted. What I'm going to do is this. I know this is much to try to do this in a class like this because we're going to feel like we're going over each other's head, I'm sure, in some of these. But the conjunct Pluto at 13 degrees of Cancer, wait, I went the wrong way here. Okay, I want you to just get this. Let's do this right now. Just get this sense of it. There's only three things we're going to look for. The new moon preceding the event. Okay? That was at 4 degrees Leo. That happened prior to it. Now, it may be the new moon's just going to happen 2 days later after that death. It's not the one that affects him. It's the one preceding that. And that was at 4 degrees Leo. And being conjunct his sun and quincunx his moon, this quincunx aspect is called an 8th house aspect. It is a death aspect itself. Okay? So, so let's go to the next one. That's the new moon. That's the first thing. Okay? It's conjunct his sun, quincunx his moon. The next thing we're going to look for, of course, the new moon's preceding his suicide was at 4 degrees Leo. Conjunct his sun, we talked about. Setting off the sun square Neptune. That's what I'm trying to get to you. In other words, the fact that the new moon was conjunct his sun, it's squaring his Neptune in the 12th. And one of the things that they know now is he had Parkinson's disease. And we also know that he was using drugs regularly anyway, most of his life. We also know that much of the evidence points that use of drugs, particularly some of these drugs, ecstasy and others, may lead to Parkinson's disease. There's theories that that's true. So the progressed moon is 25 Gemini, exactly squaring Saturn. What I'm trying to show you is all three things add up to this moment. And when you realize that for these just the two factors, the progressed moon's 28-year cycle, Saturn's a 28-year cycle. For them both to do this and line up perfectly within 2 degrees of a death planet Pluto, of the affliction to the zone Sun and Neptune, all happens within 2 degrees. The odds of those movements occurring exactly at those degrees and exactly at the time of death is astronomical. You couldn't get a better to bet on that. I mean, there's no way. And so this is only one example of how accurate this is. And obviously, this happened, what, a couple weeks ago, right? I can't manufacture it. I can't make it happen. I can't make this fit, the scheme of things fit. But if I do the chart and I apply the 3 rules, they're going to predict this event very accurately. You say, well, Ron, if you knew that, why didn't you do it? I'm not an astrologer. And if I had been an astrologer, I would have been really concerned that this was going to be a crisis of his life. Okay? Because there's no way he's going to escape those 3 things all adding up. The Saturn affliction, the Sun, Moon, and Neptune affliction, because the Sun is 150 degrees to the Moon, and it's squaring Neptune. So you got both lights, the Sun, the spirit, you've got the Moon, the soul, and you got Neptune, drugs, all in affliction. Then you added that other planet right on top of Pluto, which is death. And then you add the square to Saturn, which is depression, which he dealt with all his life. All 3 aspects are indicators of a crisis of major proportion in that man's life. Now, could have an astrologer saved it? Maybe not, you know. I mean, even if he had been there and advising the man, doesn't mean. If you saw the video he did for the lady that was dying, did any of you see that? Some woman in another country, I think it was a Scandinavian country, Finland or somewhere, she was dying of cancer, and she asked Robin for some encouragement. And he went on a video to her just prior to his death, talked to her, and be strong and do all this, right? The next thing he does is kill himself. Anyway. Yeah, go ahead.
He was apparently so depressed for weeks before that he was staying in bed for 18 hours at a time in a darkened room.
Seclusion.
So it wasn't like a sudden thing. Yeah, he made himself even more depressed by his behavior.
Yeah.
And I feel, this is a little off the topic, but I feel it's almost a failure of society not to have helped him because people already knew that he was in trouble.
Well, you know, it's hard. I mean, you say society, that's a big word. Who do you blame? To blame them. Maybe it's, yeah, but if a man locks himself in a room and doesn't want to come in. Did you ever see his house? Mansion. I mean, and it's near San Francisco, if I believe it, right? And it's humongous. He could have been, it's like a hotel. His wife couldn't get, Yeah, it's marvelous home. So, so this is just this one, just that alone, okay? This one is the one we had up here. This was a colon cancer death. And this has the yod, the actual yod. I'll show you what it looks like. I put one in here for you. See this? This is he was born with this yod. Mars in 150 degrees to Uranus and Pluto and Virgo. What do you know what Virgo rules in your body? What sign? What? The bowels, exactly. And it's also afflicting Neptune over here, which is hospitals. And Mars, which is what? It's enough damage from that alone. And so his progressed moon was at 22 Aries when this death occurred. And 22 Aries puts it right on this yod, absolutely right here, setting off this, because this is only 20 degrees. Here's what I want you to understand about aspects. If you looked at 22 degrees, you'd say, well, 16 and to 22 is how much? 6 degrees orb. Okay. You say, well, that's 6 degrees, that's pretty far off, but not really, because this one's hitting within 2 degrees. And if this is being triggered, any one of these points is triggered, then the whole thing gets triggered. That's what I'm trying to teach you. I don't want you to look at this and say, well, it didn't really make an aspect to over here to Pluto at 16 because it's a wide orb. Well, in this case 22, you say 22 for progressed moon. That's 7-degree orb, but that doesn't mean anything because it's making this aspect here. It's bringing the yod into total play. Okay. Okay. Transiting Saturn in his chart was at 16 Scorpio, which is conjunct his Neptune, drugs, setting off an exact quincunx aspect to his Mars, squaring his Venus. This was the other aspect, the third rule. The second rule was find a progressed moon. Progressed moon on this death was at 22 Aries, setting off quincunx again, the 150-degree aspect, which can be very fatal, to Neptune, which is drugs, exactly, and triggering the finger of God. This is what the yod is called. That Y is called the finger of God. It's a very fateful aspect to have in a chart. An aspect to Pluto and Uranus. What do you think Pluto rules? Death. And Uranus is unexpected. Nobody expected him to die in his 40s. He was a what do you call it? A nutritionist. He was a health. What do you call it? Fitness trainer. Fitness trainer. He had a body that looked like amazing, and he trained others to build their bodies and to be in good nutrition. And here he dies of colon cancer. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, amazing guy. And he, everybody loved him. I mean, he was an amazing guy. Yes, sir. Technique? Yeah, that's good.
Do you cast, when you did this chart for Robin Williams or for whatever, do you cast the chart for the time, or do you, I guess, try and align the three and then see what time?
No, let me answer that for you. You have a natal chart. It's a birth chart.
Okay.
You have one on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are 3 things I would do to that chart real quick, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. You're going to look for the new moon preceding whatever it is in the chart. Let's say I want to know what's happening next month. Mm-hmm. I want to look at that new moon. Okay. So let's say the next new moon is going to fall in a few days, and that's going to be at, let's say, 4 degrees Virgo. Probably will be roughly there. So I would look at your chart and I'd put that on the outside and I'd say, okay, what is this doing in that chart? Then I would do this. I would bring up the transit chart for that chart, which is on a computer too. You'll have a program that I'm going to show you how to use it, and you just ask it to calculate a transit chart for this day. What it does is you're going to get a chart circle outside of a circle, which is going to have all the planets of the transit, where the planets are right this moment in the heavens. Okay, not where the new moon is, where the planets are. Once you've got that, you're going to look for Saturn. That's all I want you to look for. And you're going to put it on the outside of that chart and see where it falls. You with me? Okay. Now you've got 2 factors right now. The other thing you're going to do is you're going to come back to that program and say, calculate a progressed chart. And I'll show you how to do that. That's what you're going to learn over this time in this class. We're going to all be doing this, okay? So you're going to look for the progressed moon. That's all you want. You don't want the rest of the planets. You're going to put the progressed moon on the outside of that circle. You got the progressed moon, you got transit Saturn, you got the new moon. Now you're going to put that in that chart and see what's going on in your life and what's going on in that chart. What's going to do is it's going to give you some indication of what's coming, or if anything is active in that chart for that period of time, yes.
For that period of time, you look at
Right.
look at relationships, whatever you're looking for, you just
Exactly,
look into it.
exactly.
So whatever the planets indicate.
Yeah,
Yeah, those were what houses the planets are. Because
If the planets aren't in a relationship, part of the chart, then maybe it won't be something that happens to
you might not be very
It
active.
could be like
period.
careers and things.
It could
So-
be anything.
So let me
So
just
you
say,
think- So you're saying that if I'm looking at something, I just got to read what the chart says, so I won't look and see, okay, how my health is doing this month, or
right, okay.
what happens in my career. Should I be planning on making a career move? So I can't ask those questions. I just read from the chart and
No, you just read the
interpret
chart.
it?
The chart will tell you. You don't ask
Yeah.
the question.
The thing is that the questions are good. The question is it a good time to make a change, okay? Is it a good time to look at another job? Is it a time when this is going to upset your future? And is it maybe going to impair your ability to make a better living? Because those questions can be answered in the chart. Because if I see you have, for example, let's say you have Saturn afflictions in your chart, your natal chart, you have a chart. And if I look at your chart and I see Saturn and Mars are afflicted, let's take it for example. Saturn and Mars are afflicted. And that's being triggered by these things in your chart. Progressed moon, transit Saturn, and the new moons. If I see that's happening, I'm going to caution you against making anything rash moves, which is Mars, which is action. I'm going to do something. I'm going to, maybe in anger, or I'm frustrated with this, I don't want to be around. And I see Saturn, which is trying to teach you what? Patience. And so I'm going to say, look, don't do anything rash right now. Hang in where you're at until this aspect passes, because if you move now in your anger, okay, or whatever, and you move too rashly right now, the message is that this Saturn is saying you should have been patient. You're going to end up with some karma, some problems because of that action. Okay, that's what I would advise, you see. So I don't expect, this is a hard class, the first one. If you just walked in, you've never been around this too much, and all of a sudden, I don't care if you've been with me, these are great students here. This has to be a little frustrating the first time I show it to you. But when I start putting in your own charts, and you pick an event in your life that you want to look at particularly, and we do the progression, and we do the new moon, and we do the transit Saturn, and we put it on the outside of that circle, you're going to be amazed. And I can do that over and over again. I don't know whether I did, I thought I did last night in here, but it doesn't look like I did. So, anyway, let me do this. I know it's got long for you guys tonight, but let me do this. Here's what I want. How many of you have iPhones or iPads? Can I see your hands? Everybody, you got a what do you call Android?
Yeah.
I have Windows.
Windows? Okay, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
We'll forgive it. We'll forgive it.
I'm in the same boat.
Okay, here's the thing. You can get it on your computer. It's called Time Passages. They've got a sale right now. If you go there, Time Passages. It's a simple program. It'll do your progressions, your transits, and your charts for you very quickly. You can get it for $29.95 on your Android or on your iPad or on your iPhones for the lifetime. But it's good for $29.95. One time you buy it, that's it. And it'll do all the things the computer will do for $200. See what I'm getting at? So you don't have to spend that much money to get this into your life. Once you have it, like I was telling you last night, I'm sitting and laying in a bed in a hospital, and I got my iPhone out, and I was able to do anything I needed to do. I get the transit position of Saturn, I get the progressed moon, just like that. And I can look at my chart and say, oh my God, why didn't I see this? My Grand Cross is being triggered. Uranus is being opposed by Saturn. Uranus is unexpected events, sudden, unexpected, exactly what happened. Would have never predicted that or anyway known it was going to happen. And Uranus rules Aquarius. What part of your body is Aquarius ruled? The ankles. The ankles. What do you think that is back here?
Yeah.
See what I mean? Is that amazing?
Yeah.
That's how accurate it is. So, but you know, you say, well, Ron, you're the astrologer. Why didn't you see that ahead of time? My wife, she said enough to me last night. You know? The shoemaker without shoes. I just generally don't look at my own chart. I'm always doing other people's work. Okay, so what's this now? Oh. Okay, so here's what I think I'm going to do. Okay? Next week, here's what we're going to do. We're going to calculate in the class everybody's new moon for this preceding class, which will be, I think I told you, it'll be about 4 Virgo, somewhere in there, 3 Virgo, whatever. We're going to put that in the outer side of your. So if you don't have bring a copy of your chart. If you need an extra one, I'll just copy. I got copiers here. I can just run off as many as you need. We're going to do that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put your transit Saturn into the chart. Where's Saturn right now? Anybody know by transit? Yeah, Scorpio, what degree? About 17 maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not going to change much. It's going to be roughly there when you come back next week. So we're going to put that on the outside of the chart too. You can do this at home. You don't have to wait to come to class to do this. So you're going to put the new moon, and I have new moon chart records here for you. So what we're going to do is this. Take this home with you, and I think I have enough for everybody. If I don't, I'll run some more. You've got one already?
I'm okay, because I
Okay.
have
You can run those around. These are the new moons for the rest of the year, and into next year actually. So what I want you to do is, if you don't have a chart, stay with me tonight and I'll run a chart for you real quick. Print one out for you. If you need an actual paper chart instead of on the computer, I'll do a chart for you if you're coming back. You know, gonna hold you to that. And then the other side is we're going to do that, and we're going to do one more thing. We're going to do your progressed moon. And we're going to put that in the chart. And I'm going to do it for everybody in this class. Now there's something I need from all of you tonight before you leave. Because part of this class, this is a 2-part class. One is on how to see compatibility in the chart between you and another person. How to see relationships in the chart. How to understand whether they're going to work, where the conflicts are. For example, let's say your sun is on top of another person's moon in their chart. Okay? So your sun's in Virgo at what degree?
7.
7? Okay. So you meet somebody and they have their moon at 7 degrees Virgo. Or 8 or 9, it's right in there, it's wider work there. And you see that your sun's on top of their moon. What do you think that means? Anybody think they could come up with an interpretation?
They dominate you somehow. Their will
Who does?
dominates
The sun
you.
dominates the
sun
moon.
dominates the moon.
Very good, very good. The sun is the will, the moon is emotional, right?
I know because I have that with my boyfriend. His sun is in Aquarius and my moon is in Aquarius, and
He dominates.
oh yeah.
Yeah. See that? And that's how, that especially is, when the sun is with the moon, it's a good marriage aspect though. It is a good marriage aspect, but you gotta not let that will of the sun, that person's got that sun on top of your moon, drive you down emotionally to the point you can't get up and breathe.
So what does it mean? Because his moon is in Aquarius too. So we have both of our moons and his sun all together right there.
Right there. It's a good marriage aspect. Sun moon conjunctions are marriage aspects. They're good.
It's good to know.
Yeah, it is good. But, you know, you've got to recognize you're dealing with a man's will, especially a man. You got a man's sun on top of your moon? Huh? That sounds very sexual, I know. Yeah. So,
Get it, Ron.
yeah, I can't help it. I can't help it. But what are we dealing with? Think about this. We're dealing with the emotional, always upset, emotional, crying, you know, little child, the moon, being dominated by this sun, which is, I'm the lord of the castle here. Don't tell me what to do, my will rules. Right?
Well, at the beginning we had our, you know.
And you cried a lot? Sure, that's a moon. What's a moon do? It's emotional.
I got us in Aquarius and not in like Scorpio or something. More emotional.
Yeah, it would be worse then, yes. The thing is that the moon and anybody, the man has Aquarius sun, I don't know the rest of his chart. Very, very often the Aquarian influence is kind of cold, detached. You know, that's Uranus stuff, you know. And, you know, it's very genius also, too. It's usually computers and stuff like, does he work with computers?
To a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah. It's usually somebody that's very, very independent, is the word I would use. Okay. So that independence is Uranus, wants to be free. Freedom's important to Aquarius. What's the age of Aquarius, right? Freedom, brotherhood, all that stuff, okay? So whenever you see that conjunction, you know something's going on real strong in that chart. Mars, Venus. That's a rough one. If you have Mars conjunct Venus or aspecting, squaring to each other in a chart, what do you think's going on there? Anybody got an option for that one?
Love and hate.
Ooh, who said that?
What was that? I didn't hear.
Sexual.
Sexual tension?
Yeah, who said love and hate?
I did.
Huh? That's it. That's called love-hate relationship.
Or like a masculine, feminine clash.
Yeah, I mean, if they're squaring off and they're opposing, and the thing with these aspects is when they're doing this, for example, you meet a woman or you meet a guy. In this room, it's mostly going to meet a guy. So, and you look in the chart and you see they have a a Venus conjunct Mars in their chart, and it's afflicted by other planets. That person has a lot of problems. I'll tell you what their problems are. It's love-hate relationship. They'll be hot and cold. They'll go back and forth between love, Venus, and anger, Mars. If you have somebody that has a Pluto-Saturn or Mars-Saturn affliction in a chart, this is an aspect that is very hard to live with. I'll tell you why. And I counsel a lot of people. I have clients on the west coast of Florida that I'm dealing with all the time with their relationship stuff. And one of them has Mars square Saturn, and she had a second lover. He found out about it. And he wanted to marry this woman. And you can imagine the fury and the anger. But this guy was so controlling because of that Mars-Saturn, so controlling, that he actually tapped into her phones. He went through her phone and found out about the relationship by checking all her messages. That's how controlling he was. But the thing about a Mars-Saturn aspect is, when you have an affliction like this, you tend not to forgive. Let me tell you why. Mars is anger. Saturn is living in the past. Remember what Christ said to Peter? Get behind me, Satan. Saturn is what rules. When you see a relationship falling apart, you hear this all the time. You always and you never. You always do this. You never do. You see what I'm saying? What are you saying? I didn't forgive you then. I'm not forgiving you now. I'm still in the past. And what do you think that does to a marriage? It breaks it up. Because what does the devil do? It came from a Latin word. It was diablos. What do you think diablos means? Divide, di, and abolish. Divide and destroy. All started in Adam and Eve. And we won't go there tonight. Anyway, so what I'm telling you is this, that when you're looking at charts, you've got two ways to look at a relationship. You look at that person's chart, then you look at the integration of your chart with theirs. In your case, for example, you find a very strong redeeming relationship potential there because of that Sun-Moon conjunction. You also have to recognize, am I going to be submissive to this man? And am I going to always give in to his will over my will throughout this relationship? And can I do that? Am I willing to do that? Okay, so that's basically the questions you have to ask in this. So for an astrologer to counsel you is one thing to say you shouldn't, you couldn't, this isn't going to work. I don't believe in that. I believe you can make it work, but it may take more work. It may take more effort. It may take a lot of sacrifice of your own ego. Say, I'm willing to put up with this guy because I love him. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, enough of that. Yes, honey.
Sorry.
Anybody?
About the conjunction. It sort of implied that it was a negative aspect, but I don't necessarily think of it as a negative aspect, like an
Or square.
It can be with Mars and Venus, for example.
Yeah?
It doesn't have to be, but it can be, and especially if it's afflicted from the other parts of the chart.
If it's afflicted, yes, I can
Yeah.
understand that, but what if it's just a conjunction?
It's just that because you have such, you see Mars is, wow.
Mars is aggressive.
It's aggressive and it can be intensely sexual, yes, when you see that conjunction. It can be what draws the people together, absolutely can.
It's too many elements.
Okay,
No,
honey,
sit down and do
okay,
that.
boss speaks. So what, see, her sun's not even on top of my moon. So what I'm saying to you is this, that we're gonna explore relationships in depth in this class. And what I want you to do is I want you to start giving me, I need from all of you, you can send me an email, it's easier that way actually. Send me an email of your prospective compatibility chart you want. And I probably have, if I don't have your birth information included with it, sometimes it's easier, just put it all there and it's all in one place and I can load it into the computer and do it. Give me 2 that you'd like to do that with. You don't have to give them all to me at once. If you want to wait a couple of weeks till you meet the next guy, then then you can send me a new one. So anyway, you get the point. But here's the whole thing. I want you to do, we're going to do 2 of those compatibilities. We're also going to look at the individual charts privately a little bit, as much as I can. I don't like to do too much. You know, you have to be careful. When you're in a group, it's hard. You know, we're dealing with sometimes real sensitive things. So, but we'll do that. And also, I want you to, this week, do as much as you can to do the 3 things I've asked you to do on your chart. Okay? If you need me to look it up, call me. If you want help, call me this week and say, Ron, just tell me where my progress moon is, and I'll do it for you. Tell me where my, well, you know where transit Saturn is all the time, pretty much. What, 18 degrees Scorpio now?
Yeah.
You can put that in tonight. Put it on the outside of your, put T Saturn for transit Saturn. Then you're going to put P moon. If you don't have it, if you can look it up, do it yourself. If you can't, call me and I'll tell you where P moon is, okay? And then we're going to do one more thing, the new moons. Now I gave you the new moon thing, okay? Pick the next closest new moon to when we have our next meeting. I think the next meeting, there's a new moon coming up. What does it say in there?
On the 26th is the next one, on Tuesday.
Okay, and our next class is when?
That Thursday, the 28th.
So you got, so the next new moon's going to be coming up, and it's just going to be a couple days before the class starts, right? Okay. So if you see all these terrible things I showed you today, don't run and hide. Just call me. We'll talk through it, and we'll see if there's anything there to be concerned with. I don't make, you know, when I see a chart and I see aspects, I counsel people, and I try to teach them how to get over things. The most important thing about being an astrologer is not to plant fear and all the negativity out there. If you have a client who's going through something like, let's say, Robin Williams, he needs professional help. Astrologer can do something, maybe. But you know, that man was far beyond it, reaching from a person like me. You know, I mean, it's possible, you never know.
They gotta want to help themselves too.
Yeah.
Because he just locked himself up and...
That's right. And there are people that you can't reach, okay? Remember I said the meek shall inherit the earth? What's that mean? Teachable, if you're teachable. And you're going to meet people in your client work and your staff. When you start working with people, you're going to find people that absolutely are so stubborn in certain ways they don't care about anything but their own path. And I've given advice to a lot of people and I tell them, it's your decision. You know, the woman on the West Coast, I said, she got 2 lovers. And she's in her 60s. When I first did her chart, she had nobody in her life. I told her, you'll have 2 men in your life within 6 months. You'll have 2 men in your life. She didn't believe me. She's had 2 men in her life for 3 years since then. And one of them's dropped out. The guy I told her he's going to be very unforgiving. Saturn square Mars. He's going to be unforgiving, and he's going to be very controlling. Guess what? He's dropping out. Guess who comes in? Another guy from Canada. So she calls me up the other day and she wants that chart done. Can you look at this guy's chart? He wants to marry me. He wants to marry me, you know? So I met her. She came down here to a funeral we went to a few weeks ago, and I actually met her. But she's got her own challenges, but those are things that I can't tell her what to do just because I see these things. I can advise her, and she's still going to follow her heart, right? Or her, but Jim's the best in bed. You know, she's going to follow something. You see what I'm getting at? She's going to go after whatever is most important to her, and whatever that is going to drive her in that direction. The astrologer can give her all the advice in the world, doesn't mean she's going to follow it. Okay? So I've gone on long beyond our time, but I just want you to make this happen. Let's do this progressions, transits, transit Saturn, progress moon, and your new moons, you all have the chart. And by next week when you come, we're going to take a peek at those. And we're going to also do 2 compatibility charts. So if you get them to me this week, if I'm not laid up a little bit more after tonight, I'll try to do them this week. If not, we'll do them the week after, but I'll get them. So you've been a great class. Thanks so much for putting up with me. I love you all.
Ron,
Yeah.
I just noticed that there's a slight difference in the new moon time on my calendar than there is on your new moon calendar.
It could be. Could be.
I have it as Monday,
What do I have? It's Tuesday?
Yeah.
2 degrees Virgo. And you have it on Tuesday, 3 degrees Virgo.
Really?
Just
it could-
mentioning.
You could, no, it could be right.
I
It
don't
could be
know,
right.
I don't know which one is right.
I ran
don't
down
know
in
where you
Ephemeris
got-
real quick and I looked at those dates.
Oh,
I looked for this
so you might-
moon passing over the sun. A degree's not going to make any interpretive difference, believe it or not. I mean, it
Okay.
might, but it's not
Well,
likely
yeah.
to. But it's better to have it accurate. So change it to,
10:13 a.m. I have it as
Okay.
on Monday, so.
Okay, then
it's
change it.
actually
Wait,
Monday.
goodbye.
yeah.
Wait,
Goodbye, everybody.
Over here.
Elena says goodbye. Is it that time, really? My God.
Yeah.